13 quiet years ended with a knock on my door. I had just moved into my new home on the east side of Denver. It was a beautiful place with clean counters and wide windows. The kitchen finally smelled like peace. I thought the hard part was over. I thought I was safe. Then the door camera blinked. I looked at the screen and my heart stopped. Ava stood there. Behind her was my mother, Margaret. They had 2 large suitcases sitting on the porch next to them. They stood there casually, checking their phones, as if 13 years of silence was just a long lunch break. They looked impatient. They looked like they expected the door to open simply because they were standing there. They came like the silence between us didn't exist. They came expecting entry into a life they had tried to destroy. I stared at the screen. My hand hovered over the lock, but I didn't turn it. They were looking for the girl who used to beg for their love, but the woman standing behind that door wasn't the one they left behind. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching from? In our house, my sister Ava was not just a person. She was a weather system. If she woke up smiling, the sun was shining for everyone. If she woke up grumpy or sad or angry, the clouds rolled in. The air in the hallway would feel heavy. My mother, Margaret, would walk on tiptoes. We all learned to read the barometer of Ava's mood before we even brushed our teeth in the morning. I learned very early on that my job was to be the anchor. I was the steady ground. I was the one who didn't need things. I remember my 7th birthday clearly. It is one of those memories that sticks in your brain like a splinter. My mother had bought a chocolate cake. It was simple from the grocery store, but I was excited. I had asked for chocolate. Ava, who was 5 then, wanted strawberry. When Mom put the cake on the table and lit the candles, Ava started to cry. It wasn't a soft cry. It was a loud, gasping wail that sucked all the oxygen out of the room. She pointed at the dark frosting and screamed that she hated it. She said it looked like dirt. She said she wouldn't eat it. My mother froze. The match in her hand burned down until it stung her finger, and she dropped it. She looked at Ava's red, wet face, and then she looked at me. "Lena," she said, her voice was tight. "Honey, maybe we can scrape the frosting off for her, or maybe we can get ice cream instead." I looked at my cake. I looked at the 7 candles waiting to be lit. I wanted to blow them out. I wanted to make a wish, but I saw the panic in my mother's eyes. She just wanted the noise to stop. She wanted peace. "It's okay," I said. My voice sounded small, even to my own ears. "I don't need the cake." We didn't eat the cake. Mom put it back in the box and into the fridge. She took us out for ice cream. Ava got a double scoop of strawberry and stopped crying instantly. She sat in the back seat of the car, swinging her legs and humming. Mom looked in the rearview mirror and smiled at her, relieved. "You're such a good big sister, Lena," Mom told me later that night. "You're so strong. She's just more sensitive than you. She feels things deeply. You can handle a little disappointment. You're tough." I took that word, tough, and I wore it like a heavy coat. I thought it was a compliment. I didn't realize then that it was a trap. Being tough just meant I was the one who could be hurt without anyone checking to see if I was bleeding. As we got older, the dynamic solidified. It became the foundation of our lives. Ava was the center of the universe. I was the orbit. I learned responsibility the way other kids learn to ride a bike, through endless, repetitive practice. I cleaned the kitchen because if I didn't, Mom would be stressed, and if Mom was stressed, she would snap at Ava, and if she snapped at Ava would have a meltdown. So I washed the dishes. I folded the laundry. I made sure the living room was tidy before Dad came home, back before he left us. After he left, the pressure got worse. It was just the 3 of us, a triangle that was never equilateral. If Ava forgot her homework, it was a crisis. Mom would drive back to school, pleading with the teacher to accept it late. She would blame the chaotic morning. She would blame the bus driver. If I forgot my homework, which happened only once, Mom sighed. "Lena, you know better," she said, not looking up from her coffee. "You have to be more organized. I can't do everything for you." I didn't ask her to do it for me. I walked to school with a knot in my stomach, took the 0, and never forgot again. By the time we were teenagers, the roles were carved in stone. Ava was the star, dramatic and bright and fragile. I was the stagehand. I moved the props, swept the floor, and made sure the lighting was perfect for her. I remember one summer evening when I was 16. I was studying for my SATs at the kitchen table. The house was quiet for once. I felt good. I felt focused. I had big dreams of getting a scholarship, of going to a college far away where nobody knew me as Ava's sister. Ava burst through the front door. She was 14, flushing and crying. She had been at a pool party. "They didn't talk to me," she sobbed, throwing her bag on the floor. "Sarah and Jenny ignored me the whole time. They hate me." Mom came running from the laundry room like a first responder. She wrapped her arms around Ava. "Oh baby no, they're just jealous," Mom cooed. "You're so beautiful, they're just jealous." Ava wailed louder. "I need new clothes, my swimsuit is ugly, that's why they hate me." Mom looked at me. I was trying to read a passage about geometry. "Lena," Mom said, "go get your sister a glass of water and bring the tissues." "I'm studying, Mom," I said. I didn't look up. It was a small rebellion, but my heart hammered in my chest. "Lena," Mom's voice sharpened. "Put the book down, your sister is in distress. How can you be so selfish? Family comes first." Selfish. That was the word she used whenever I tried to exist for myself. If I wanted to read, I was selfish. If I wanted to stay in my room, I was antisocial. If I didn't want to listen to Ava recount every minute detail of her day for the third time, I was unsupportive. I got up. I got the water. I got the tissues. I sat there for 2 hours while Ava cried about the girls at the pool, and Mom stroked her hair and promised to take her shopping the next day. My geometry book lay open on the table, forgotten. When they finally went upstairs, I sat alone in the kitchen. The silence wasn't peaceful. It felt heavy. I looked at the dark windows and realized something terrifying. In this house, facts didn't matter. It didn't matter that Ava had probably been rude to Sarah and Jenny. It didn't matter that she had plenty of clothes. It didn't matter that I had a test that could determine my future. Only feelings mattered. Specifically, Ava's feelings. And because I didn't scream, because I didn't throw bags or cry until I choked, they assumed I didn't have any feelings at all. I was just a utility. I was an appliance. I was the refrigerator or the toaster, expected to work, expected to serve, and ignored until I broke. But I wasn't broken yet. I was just cracking, and nobody was looking close enough to see the fissures. The shift from neglect to active betrayal didn't happen overnight. It was a slow creep, like water rising in a basement. You don't notice the dampness until your feet are suddenly wet. When Ava turned 16 and I was 18, things changed. Ava discovered that her tears could do more than just get her attention. She learned they could get her out of trouble. And even worse, she learned they could shift the trouble onto someone else. That someone was always me. It started with small things. A misplaced $20 bill from Mom's purse. I came home from my part-time job at the library one afternoon. I was tired. I was saving every penny for college. I walked into the kitchen, and the atmosphere was icy. Mom was sitting at the table. Ava was next to her, looking down at her hands, her shoulders shaking slightly. "Lena, sit down," Mom said. Her voice wasn't warm. It was the voice of a judge. I sat. "What's wrong?" "I'm missing $20 from my wallet," Mom said. "I left it on the counter this morning. Ava says she saw you near it before you left for work." I blinked. "What? No, I made toast and then I left. I didn't touch your wallet." I looked at Ava. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She just sniffled. "I didn't say you stole it, Lena," Ava whispered, her voice trembling perfectly. "I just said I saw you moving things around on the counter. Maybe you needed lunch money." "I have my own money," I said, my voice rising. "I work, you know I work." "Don't yell at your sister," Mom snapped. "She's trying to help. Lena, if you needed money, you just had to ask. Stealing from me, it breaks my trust." "I didn't take it," I insisted. I stood up, feeling the heat rise in my face. "Check my bag, check my wallet. I don't need to search you like a criminal," Mom said, looking disappointed. "I just want you to admit it. Honesty is important. I am being honest, but they didn't believe me. Or maybe it was just easier to believe the story where Ava was the helpful observer and I was the desperate thief. Later that week, I saw Ava with a new set of expensive lip glosses. She applied them in front of the hallway mirror, smiling at herself. She saw me watching. She didn't look guilty. She just winked. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. She knew exactly what she had done, and she knew she could get away with it. Then came the car incident. I had bought a used sedan with my own money. It was old, it rattled, but it was mine. I paid for the gas. I paid for the insurance. It was my ticket to freedom. One Saturday, I woke up and my keys were gone from the hook by the door. I ran to the window. The driveway was empty. My heart hammered. I called Mom. No answer. I called Ava, straight to voicemail. 3 hours later, the car pulled into the driveway. It wasn't driving straight. It lurched and stalled. When it stopped, I saw the front bumper was hanging off on the left side. There was a long, deep scrape down the passenger door. Ava got out of the driver's seat. She was hysterical. She was screaming before she even got to the house. I ran out. "What did you do? You stole my car." Mom got out of the passenger seat. She looked shaken. "Stop it, Lena," Mom yelled at me. "She's upset. Can't you see she's shaking?" "She wrecked my car," I screamed. It was the first time I had really raised my voice at my mother in years. "She stole it and she wrecked it." Ava threw herself into Mom's arms, sobbing. "I just wanted to practice. I wanted to be like you, Lena. I wanted to drive." The mailbox just jumped out. "It wasn't my fault." Mom stroked Ava's hair, glaring at me over her shoulder. She made a mistake, Lena. She's a child, it's just a car. Material things can be replaced. Your sister is traumatized. I have to pay for that, I pointed at the bumper. I have to pay to fix it, she doesn't have a license. We will discuss money later, Mom said coldly. Right now, we need to calm Ava down. You're making it worse, go to your room. I stood in the driveway, staring at my broken car. I was the victim. My property had been stolen and destroyed, yet I was the one being sent to my room. I was the villain because my anger was interfering with Ava's comfort. That was the moment the invisible wall between us became concrete. By the time I was 19, I was a ghost in my own house. I was attending the local community college, because Mom said we couldn't afford for me to go away, even though she had just bought Ava a brand new laptop and paid for a private cheerleading camp. I stayed out of the house as much as possible. I studied at the library, I picked up extra shifts, I ate dinner in my room, but the final straw wasn't about money or cars. It was about character. I had met a boy named Mark. He was kind. He was the first person who really listened to me. We had been dating for 3 months. I kept him separate from my family, protecting him, protecting us. One afternoon, I came home to find Mark sitting on the porch swing with Ava. Ava was laughing, touching his arm. She was wearing one of my sweaters. When she saw me, her face changed. She looked at Mark with wide, fearful eyes. "Oh, Lena," she said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I was just telling Mark I think it's so brave of you to try to date, even with your episodes." I froze on the bottom step. "What?" Mark looked at me, confused and a little wary. "Lena, Ava was just telling me about last summer, the anger management classes." My mouth fell open. "What are you talking about?" "It's okay," Ava said quickly to Mark. "We don't talk about it, it triggers her. I just thought you should know so you don't set her off." She looked at me with a terrifyingly innocent expression. She was painting me as unstable. She was poisoning the one good thing I had. "That's a lie," I said. My voice was shaking, not with rage but with shock. "Mark, she's lying. I've never taken anger management. She's making this up." Mark looked from Ava to me. Ava shrank back, looking like a frightened deer. I looked like the aggressor, standing there stiff and tense. "I think I should go," Mark said. He stood up. He didn't look at me the same way. The doubt was there, the seed had been planted. He left. He broke up with me 2 days later via text. He said he didn't want drama. I didn't fight Ava this time. I didn't scream. I didn't go to Mom. I walked into the house, past Ava who was smirking at the TV, past Mom who was cooking dinner. I went to my room. I felt a strange clarity. It was cold and hard like ice. I realized then that I could not survive in this house. If I stayed, they would eat me alive. They would rewrite my history until I didn't recognize myself. They would make me into the villain of their story forever. I pulled my suitcase out from under the bed. It was dusty. I didn't pack everything. I only packed what I could carry. Clothes, my savings passbook, my birth certificate, a photo of my dad. It took me 20 minutes. I walked downstairs. It was 6 p.m. on a Tuesday. Mom looked up from the stove. "Dinner's almost ready, set the table." "No," I said. She paused, the spoon hovering over the pot. "Excuse me." "I'm leaving," I said. "Don't be dramatic, Lena," she sighed. "Where are you going, to the store?" "No, I'm moving out." Ava looked up from the couch. "Good riddance," she muttered. Mom laughed. It was a harsh, dry sound. "Don't be silly. You can't afford to live on your own. You'll be back in a week when you run out of money. Stop trying to get attention, it's pathetic." "I'm not coming back," I said. I walked to the door. I waited for a second. A tiny, foolish part of me waited for her to run after me. I waited for her to ask why. I waited for her to say, "Wait, let's talk, I love you." But she just turned back to the stove. "Suit yourself," she called out. "But don't expect me to keep your room as a shrine. If you walk out that door, you're on your own." "I've been on my own for a long time, Mom," I said softly. I opened the door and stepped out. The evening air hit my face. It felt different. It didn't feel heavy. It felt like oxygen. I walked to my beat-up car, the one with the dented bumper. I threw my suitcase in the back. I got in and turned the key. I drove away without looking in the rearview mirror. I told myself that time apart might make the truth louder. I thought maybe, if I was gone, they would see the hole I left behind. I thought they might miss me. I was wrong. They didn't miss me. They just closed the gap and kept going. They simply rewrote the story without me in it. 13 years is a long time. It is enough time for a child to be born and start high school. It is enough time for cells to regenerate, for scars to fade, and for memories to turn into dust. For my family, 13 years was enough time to completely erase me. When I first drove away in my rattling car, I thought there would be a crisis. In my naive heart, I imagined my mother staring at my empty room, realizing she had pushed me too far. I imagined Ava feeling a pang of guilt for the sister who was no longer there to clean up her messes. I thought my phone would ring. I drove for 2 hours that first night. I checked into a cheap motel off the highway. I sat on the lumpy mattress staring at my flip phone. It didn't ring. Day 1 passed, then day 2, then a week. Silence. The silence was loud. It was heavy. At first, it felt like a punishment. It was the silent treatment, a tactic my mother had perfected years ago. If we ignore her, the silence said, she will come crawling back. But I didn't crawl back. I found a job waiting tables at a diner. I rented a room in a basement that smelled like damp concrete. I survived. Then came the holidays. The first Thanksgiving alone was the hardest. I worked a double shift just to keep busy. The diner was full of families, parents laughing, kids spilling gravy, grandparents telling stories. I poured coffee and smiled until my face hurt. When I got back to my basement room, I made a mistake. I opened my laptop. I logged onto social media. There was the photo. It was posted by Ava. It was a picture of the dining room table, set perfectly with the good china, the china I used to hand wash. Mom was smiling, holding a glass of wine. Ava was beaming, wearing a dress I recognized as one I had left behind. The caption read, "So grateful for a peaceful Thanksgiving with the people who truly matter. Family is about love, not drama. Missing the ones who lost their way, but protecting our peace comes first. Number blessed, number family first." I stared at the screen. Drama. Lost their way. I wasn't the one who screamed about cake. I wasn't the one who wrecked a car. I wasn't the one who lied about theft. But in the caption, I was the villain. I was the dark cloud they had finally blown away. The comments were worse. My Aunt Linda wrote, "Stay strong, Margaret. You've done so much for her. Some birds just need to fly into the wall before they learn." A cousin I used to babysit wrote, "Love you guys. Sorry she's putting you through this." I felt sick, physically sick. I wanted to type a furious response. I wanted to scream, "I didn't leave because I'm lost. I left because you were suffocating me." But I didn't. I closed the laptop. I realized then that the truth didn't matter to them. The narrative mattered. And the narrative was simple. Lena is crazy. Lena is selfish. Lena abandoned us. Over the next few years, the erasure became systematic. I stopped receiving invitations to weddings. When my cousin got married, I found out because I saw the pictures online. I was in none of them. I wasn't even mentioned. When my grandmother died, the only person who had ever been kind to me, I didn't get a call. I found out 3 days after the funeral. I was at the grocery store buying milk. I ran into an old neighbor, Mrs. Higgins. She looked at me like she had seen a ghost. "Lena," she gasped. She pulled her cart back slightly. "Oh my goodness, we didn't think we'd see you around here." "Hi, Mrs. Higgins," I said, trying to be polite. "I was so sorry to hear about your grandmother," she said, her eyes scanning my face for signs of what? Madness? Drugs? "The funeral was lovely. Your sister gave such a moving speech about how hard it's been for the family lately." "I didn't know," I said quietly. "Nobody told me." Mrs. Higgins pursed her lips. She didn't believe me. "Well," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, "your mother said you were unavailable, that you were going through a phase and couldn't be reached." "I've had the same phone number for 5 years," I said. Mrs. Higgins just smiled, that tight, pitying smile people give to the mentally unstable. "Well, I hope you're doing better, dear. You really should call your mother, she worries so much." She walked away. I stood there in the dairy aisle, shaking. They hadn't just cut me off. They had killed my character. To the world, to our relatives, to the neighbors, I was the unstable daughter who had broken her mother's heart. I was the selfish sister who couldn't handle responsibility. Margaret and Ava were the victims. I was the tragedy they had to endure. For a long time, this made me angry. I would lie awake at night, rehearsing arguments in my head. I would imagine storming into their house with proof of my sanity. Look at my job. Look at my bank account. I am normal. I am good. But slowly, over the years, the anger turned into something else. It turned into clarity. I realized that fighting them was like fighting quicksand. The more I struggled, the deeper I would sink into their drama. If I defended myself, I would look defensive. If I yelled, I would look crazy. If I cried, I would look unstable. The only winning move was not to play. So I let them have the story. I let them paint me as the villain. I let them tell the cousins I was on drugs. I wasn't. I let them tell the neighbors I was in a cult. I wasn't. I let them have their peaceful holidays without me. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped reaching out to cousins who clearly didn't care enough to ask for my side of the story. I stopped checking their social media. I blocked Ava. I blocked Mom. I blocked the ants and the flying monkeys. It was lonely. God, it was lonely. There is a specific kind of grief that comes from mourning people who are still alive. It's a hollow ache in your chest when you see a mother and daughter having lunch in a cafe, laughing. You wonder why you weren't enough. You wonder what was so wrong with you that your own blood found it easier to erase you than to love you. But in that loneliness, there was safety. No one was stealing my money. No one was screaming at me because they felt sad. No one was blaming me for the weather. I was alone, but I was free. By the 13th year, I had stopped waiting for the apology. I had stopped waiting for them to wake up and realize they missed me. I accepted that in their movie, I was the monster. And that was okay, because I was busy writing a new movie. One where I was the hero. When human relationships failed me, I turned to chemistry. People are messy, people lie, people say they love you and then lock you out. But flour is honest. Sugar is consistent. Butter does exactly what you expect it to do, as long as you treat it with respect. I found my salvation in a bakery. After I left home, I bounced between jobs for a while. Waitressing, retail, data entry. I was good at them because I was used to working hard, but I felt empty. Then, I met Jack Sullivan. Jack was the owner of a small, struggling bakery called the Daily Crumb in downtown Denver. He was a gruff man in his 60s with flour permanently dusted into his eyebrows and a limp from an old war injury. He was looking for a dishwasher. I needed rent money. I started washing dishes. But I watched. I watched how he measured the yeast. I watched how he checked the dough's elasticity. I watched the way he pulled trays of golden croissants from the oven, the smell filling the air like a warm hug. One morning, Jack's assistant didn't show up. The morning rush was starting. Jack was sweating, cursing at a tray of muffins. I can help, I said. Jack looked at me. You're the dishwasher. I've been watching, I said. I know how to glaze the danishes. I know the ratio for the icing. He hesitated, then grunted. Wash your hands, don't mess it up. I didn't mess it up. I moved with a rhythm I didn't know I had. My hands, which had spent years cleaning up other people's emotional messes, suddenly found a purpose. I glazed, I mixed. I anticipated what he needed before he asked. By noon, the rush was over. Jack wiped his forehead with a towel and looked at me. You've got good hands, kid, he said. Steady, that was the first real compliment I had received in years. It wasn't about being tough or useful. It was about being skilled. Jack became the father figure I never had. He didn't hug me. He didn't tell me he loved me. He did something better, he taught me. He taught me the science of baking. He taught me how to run a business. He taught me that mistakes in the kitchen weren't moral failures, they were just data. Burnt the bread, he'd say when I screwed up. Okay, why? Oven too hot. Left it in too long, figure it out, fix it, move on. Crying won't unburn the toast. It was the opposite of my childhood home. In the bakery, facts mattered. Logic ruled. If you followed the recipe, you got the result. It was fair. I worked for Jack for 6 years. When he decided to retire, he didn't sell the place to a stranger. He offered it to me. I can't afford it, Jack, I told him. Work it off, he said. Pay me a percentage of the profits for 5 years. I trust you. You're the hardest worker I've ever met. I took the deal. I rebranded. I called it Midnight Bakery because I did my best work when the world was asleep. I focused on comfort, heavy sourdoughs, rich chocolate tarts, things that tasted like home should feel. I worked 18-hour days. My feet ached constantly. My back throbbed. I had burns on my arms, but I was happy. Every dollar in the register was mine. Every glowing review online was about my work, not my sister's drama. I controlled the environment. If something broke, I fixed it. If a customer was rude, I handled it. The orders multiplied. I got contracts with local coffee shops. I started doing wedding cakes, ironic, considering I hadn't been invited to a wedding in a decade. The math started to make sense. My bank account grew. After 7 years of running the bakery, I had paid Jack off completely. I had savings. Real, substantial savings. I started looking for a house. I didn't want a fancy apartment downtown. I wanted a home. I wanted walls that no one could kick me out of. I found it on the east side of Denver. It was a craftsman bungalow, built in the 1920s. It needed work, but it had good bones. It had a wide porch and big windows. But the kitchen sold me. It was huge. It had a massive island and sunlight that poured in during the afternoon. I walked through the empty rooms with the realtor. My footsteps echoed on the hardwood floors. It's a bit big for one person, isn't it? The realtor asked. No, I said. It's just enough space. I bought it. I signed the papers with a shaking hand, using a pen I had earned with thousands of loaves of bread. Moving day was quiet. I didn't have a chaotic family to help me. I hired movers. They were efficient and professional. My friend Noah, who lived 2 doors down, came over to help me unpack the kitchen. Noah was a landscape architect, quiet, kind, and steady. He was the opposite of Mark. He didn't care about drama. He just liked my cookies and my dry sense of humor. This place is great, Lena, Noah said, putting a stack of plates in the cupboard. You earned this. Yeah, I said, looking around. I did. That first night in the house, I sat on the floor of the living room. I didn't have a couch yet. I ate a slice of pizza and drank a glass of cheap wine. The house was silent. But it wasn't the silence of being ignored. It wasn't the silence of the silent treatment. It was the silence of peace. It was the silence of safety. I had built a fortress. I had built a life. I was 32 years old. I was a business owner. I was a homeowner. I had friends like Noah and Jack who respected me. I thought I had finally outrun the shadow of the hearts. I thought I had built a wall high enough that they couldn't climb it. I slept deeply that night, the first restful sleep in years. I didn't know that the next morning, the ghosts were coming to knock on my door. I woke up early, the habit of a baker. I made coffee in my beautiful, empty kitchen. The sun was streaming in. I felt a sense of profound gratitude. Then, the notification on my phone buzzed. Motion detected at front door. I frowned. I wasn't expecting a package. I opened the app on my phone. The camera feed loaded. And there they were. The piece I had spent 13 years building shattered in a single pixelated image. Ava, Margit, suitcases. They stood on my porch like they owned it. Like the last 13 years hadn't happened. Like my hard work, my trauma, my healing, none of it mattered. I put my coffee cup down on the granite counter. My hand was steady. Jack's voice echoed in my head. Figure it out. Fix it. Move on. I wasn't a scared teenager anymore. I wasn't the tough big sister who absorbed the blows. I was the owner of this house. And I was the owner of my life. I walked to the door. I didn't rush. I checked the lock. It was time to face the weather system one last time. But this time I had a roof. I stood in the hallway of my new house. The floorboards were cool against my bare feet. The air smelled of fresh coffee and the lemon polish I had used on the wood yesterday. It was the smell of my sanctuary. On the other side of the heavy oak door, my past was waiting. I watched them on the phone screen for another minute. They were getting restless. Ava checked her reflection in the glass of the storm door, smoothing her hair. She looked older. The last time I saw her, she was 19. Now she was 32. The baby fat was gone, replaced by a sharpness in her jaw. She looked expensive. Her coat was cashmere. Her bag was designer. But there was a tightness around her mouth that I recognized. It was the look of someone who was waiting for the world to fix a problem she had created. Margit, my mother, looked smaller. She was hunching slightly, pulling her cardigan tight around herself. She looked at the door with a mix of entitlement and anxiety. She raised her hand and knocked again, harder this time. Bang, bang, bang. It was the sound of a demand. I took a deep breath. I didn't feel the panic I expected. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. Instead, I felt a cold, hard clarity. It was the same feeling I had when a batch of dough didn't rise, just a problem to be assessed and handled. I unlocked the deadbolt. The click was loud in the silent house. I opened the door. I didn't open it wide. I didn't step back to invite them in. I stood in the threshold, my hand on the knob, my body blocking the entrance. The air outside was crisp. Lena, Margit gasped. Her face crumbled instantly into a mask of overwhelming emotion. She threw her arms out, stepping forward as if to hug me. Oh, my baby, look at you. I didn't move. I didn't raise my arms. I just looked at her. Margit stopped a foot away from me, confused by my lack of movement. Her arms dropped slowly. Hi, Mom, I said. My voice was flat. It wasn't angry. It was just a statement of fact. Ava stepped up beside her. She flashed a bright, brittle smile. Surprise, God, Lena, you're so hard to find. We had to ask like 3 different cousins just to get your new address. You really went off the grid, didn't you? She laughed, but it was a nervous sound. She looked past me into the hallway. Her eyes widened as she saw the high ceilings, the crown molding, the glimpse of the modern kitchen in the back. Wow, Ava said, this place is nice. Way better than I expected. What are you doing here? I asked. I didn't ask how have you been, or it's good to see you. I went straight to the question that mattered. Margit wiped a tear from her cheek. Is that how you greet your mother after 13 years? We're here to see you, Lena. We're here to fix this. We're family. We missed you so much. You didn't miss me for the first 12 years, I said. Or the holidays, or the funerals. Margit flinched. Oh, Lena, don't start with the past. That's water under the bridge. We're here now. Isn't that what matters? Why are there suitcases? I pointed to the 2 large, hard-shell bags sitting on my porch. Ava shifted her weight. She looked at the ground, then back at me, her eyes filling with those familiar, weaponized tears. It's been really hard, Lena, Ava said, her voice trembling. Jeff left me. He kicked me out. He froze the accounts. I have nowhere to go. And Mom sold the house to help me with the legal fees last year, and now the rent on her apartment went up. And we just needed family. We need a place to land, just for a little while. There it was. They weren't here for reconciliation. They were here for resources. They had burned through their own lives, and now they were looking for fresh fuel. I was the backup generator they hadn't serviced in a decade, but they expected me to turn on the moment they flipped the switch. I see, I said. So can we come in? Ava asked, picking up the handle of her suitcase. It's freezing out here. She moved to step past me. I didn't move. I tightened my grip on the doorframe. No, I said. Ava stopped. What? You can't come in with the suitcases, I said. You aren't staying here. The silence that followed was thick. Margaret's mouth dropped open. Lena, be reasonable, Margaret said, her voice sharpening into the tone I remembered, the tone that meant do what I say. Your sister is in crisis. I am your mother. You have a big house here. I see it. You have plenty of room. How can you be so selfish? Selfish. The word hung in the air. 13 years ago, that word would have crushed me. It would have made me step back, apologize, and make them tea. It would have made me give up my bed for Ava while I slept on the floor. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I had built a business. I had fired employees who stole from me. I had negotiated leases. I knew the value of things and I knew the cost of things. I'm not selfish, I said calmly. I'm a stranger. You made me a stranger. We are your blood, Margaret cried. Blood is biology, I said. Family is behavior, and your behavior told me to leave. Ava dropped the act. Her face twisted into a sneer. Oh, get over yourself, Lena. You think you're better than us because you have a house. You think you're special. You're still just the boring, stuck-up sister who can't take a joke. We need help. You have to help us. It's the law or something. Filial responsibility. I almost laughed. That's not how the law works. I need to use the bathroom, Margaret announced, trying a different tactic. She clutched her purse. Are you going to deny your mother a bathroom? That's cruel, Lena, even for you. I looked at them. They were desperate. They were dangerous in their desperation. If I let them in with those suitcases, they would never leave. They would occupy the guest rooms. They would fill the fridge with their demands. They would bring the noise, the chaos, the emotional weather systems back into my peace. But I also knew that if I just slammed the door, they wouldn't leave. They would stand on the porch and scream. They would call the police and claim I was abusing them. They would make a scene that would ruin my standing in this quiet, polite neighborhood. I needed to end this definitively. I needed to perform a surgery, not just put on a bandage. You can come in for 10 minutes, I said. Leave the suitcases on the porch. But Ava started. Leave them, I said. My voice was hard as stone. If you bring a single bag across this threshold, I will call the police and have you removed for trespassing. 10 minutes to talk, then you leave. They looked at each other. They saw something in my face they hadn't seen before. They saw the boss. Slowly, Ava let go of her suitcase handle. I stepped back and opened the door. They walked into my hallway. They brought the cold air with them. They looked around, their eyes hungry, assessing the value of the rug, the lamp, the art on the walls. I didn't offer to take their coats. I didn't offer them coffee. Kitchen, I said. Sit at the table. I led them down the hall. My kitchen was bright and clean. The island was vast and white. It was a space designed for production, for clarity. They sat at the table. I remained standing on the other side of the island. I put the granite barrier between us. Talk, I said. You have 9 minutes left. I had been ready for this moment for years without fully realizing it. In the back of my mind, ever since the bakery started making real money, I knew they would come. People like Margaret and Ava have a radar for success. They can smell stability, and they seek it out like heat-seeking missiles. So I had prepared. I walked over to a drawer in the kitchen island. I pulled out a navy blue folder. It was thick. I placed it on the counter in front of me. Margaret was looking around the kitchen, her eyes calculating. This is lovely, Lena, really lovely. You know, if we moved the table over there, we could fit a nice armchair for me. My back isn't what it used to be. She was already moving in. She was already rearranging my furniture in her mind. And I could take the upstairs room, Ava added, looking at the ceiling. Does it have an ensuite? I really need my own bathroom. I can't share, you know how I am. They weren't listening. They never listened. You aren't moving in, I said again. Margaret waved her hand dismissively. Oh, stop it. We're family. Where else would we go? We're destitute, Lena. Your sister is practically homeless. I'm on a fixed income. You have all this. She gestured vaguely at the expensive appliances. You have plenty. It's your duty to share. Yeah, Ava said. You can't just let us starve. That's evil. Look at you, you're rich, you owe us. You lived in Mom's house for 18 years for free. I opened the folder. I don't owe you anything, I said. Actually, let's look at the math. I pulled out the first sheet of paper. It was a spreadsheet. When I was 16, you wrecked my car, I said, looking at Ava. The repairs cost $1,200. I paid for them. You never paid me back. Ava rolled her eyes. Oh my God, that was ages ago. You're so petty. Interest, I said. Compounded over 16 years. That's now worth about $3,500. I pulled out another paper. When I was 17, Mom, you took $500 from my savings jar to pay for Ava's prom dress. You said it was a loan. You never paid it back. Margaret stiffened. I fed you. I clothed you. I bought my own clothes since I was 14, I corrected her. And I bought the groceries starting when I was 15 because you said you were short every month. I slid the paper across the island toward them. It was a summary. I have tracked every dollar you took, every item you broke, and every loan you forgot. But that's just money. Money is easy. I pulled out a stack of printed screenshots. This, I said, tapping the paper, is the cost of my reputation. I held up a screenshot of a Facebook post Ava made 4 years ago. It was a long rant claiming I had stolen our grandmother's jewelry. I wasn't even in the state when Grandma died, I said, but you told everyone I looted her house. Cousin Sarah sent me this. She asked me if I pawned the ring. Ava's face went pale. I was upset. I didn't mean it. You meant it enough to leave it up for 4 years, I said. You meant it enough to let the family believe I was a thief. I laid the screenshots out on the counter like tarot cards. The lies, the guilt trips. The public shaming. You erased me, I said. You told the world I was the villain so you could be the victims. You got the sympathy. You got the attention. That was the transaction. You traded a relationship with me for attention from strangers. We were hurting, Margaret sobbed. We didn't know where you were. You knew, I said. You just didn't care until you needed money. I closed the folder. I took a deep breath. Here is how this works, I said. I pulled out a single document. It was notarized. This is a formal notice of no trespass, I said. It states that you are not allowed on this property. If you come back here, if you step on my porch, I will call the police. I have cameras. I will use the footage. Margaret stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. You would arrest your own mother. You're a monster. I am a woman protecting her home, I said. I am not your daughter anymore, Margaret. I am just a person you used to know. I slid a second piece of paper across the counter. This is a list of local shelters and assistance programs, I said. I printed it out this morning when I saw you on the camera. It has phone numbers for housing, legal aid, and job placement. Job placement? Ava scoffed. I'm not working at some fast food place. I have standards. Then you have a problem, I said, because you don't have a safety net anymore. I am not your safety net. I am the concrete floor. The room went silent. The air was vibrating with their shock. They had come here expecting a fight, yes, but a specific kind of fight. They expected the emotional, messy fight where they could cry and manipulate and eventually wear me down. They were not prepared for a business meeting. They were not prepared for data. You can't do this, Ava whispered. She looked small. For the first time, she looked genuinely scared. The reality was setting in. The rich sister wasn't going to save her. I can, I said. And I am. I checked my watch. You have 1 minute left, I said. Margaret stared at me. Her eyes searched my face for the little girl who used to bake cakes to make everyone happy. She searched for the teenager who desperately wanted approval. She didn't find them. She found only a stranger with cold eyes. I don't know who you are, Margaret spat. Her sadness had instantly turned to venom. You have a cold heart, Lena. You will die alone in this big house and no one will care. Maybe, I said. But I will die in peace. I walked to the front door and held it open. They stood up. They didn't look at me. They grabbed their purses. They walked down the hallway, their heels clicking angrily on the wood. They stepped out onto the porch. Ava grabbed the handle of her suitcase. Margaret grabbed hers. They paused on the steps, looking back. I thought they might scream. I thought they might throw something. But the camera was blinking above my head. They saw the red light. They saw the boundary. Don't contact me again, I said. Unless it is through a lawyer or a written letter. I have blocked your numbers. I have blocked your emails. If you come back, the police come next. You'll regret this, Ava said, but her voice lacked power. It was thin like a ribbon in the wind. I haven't regretted leaving for 13 years, I said. I won't start today. I closed the door. I locked the deadbolt. Click. I locked the top lock. Click. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood of the door. I listened. I heard the rumble of suitcase wheels on the pavement. I heard a car door slam, presumably the taxi they had kept waiting, or perhaps an Uber. Then, silence. I walked back to the kitchen. The folder was still on the counter. The air still felt a little disturbed, a little chaotic. I picked up the folder and put it back in the drawer. Then, I picked up a cloth and wiped down the counter where their hands had touched it. I wiped away the invisible fingerprints of their entitlement. I was shaking a little now, just a tremor in my hands. It wasn't fear. It was the adrenaline of a heavy lift. It was the feeling of holding up a collapsing roof and finally shoving it off your shoulders. I made myself a fresh cup of coffee. I sat at the table, a table in my house. I took a sip. It tasted like victory. The silence on the porch didn't last long. It just moved location. It moved from my front door to the internet. By nightfall, my phone started buzzing. It wasn't a call. It was a flood of notifications. I was sitting in my living room with Noah. He had come over after seeing the taxi leave. He brought a pizza and a six-pack of beer. He didn't ask too many questions. He just sat with me, letting his calm presence fill the space the screaming women had left behind. "Your phone is having a seizure," Noah said, pointing to the coffee table. I picked it up. My stomach did a slow roll. It was screenshots. Dozens of them. They were from cousins, old friends from high school, and even a few of my employees who followed my sister. Ava had posted. Of course she had. She didn't have a house, she didn't have a job, but she had an audience. I opened the image. It was a photo of Ava and Margaret sitting in a dimly lit hotel room. They looked devastated. Ava's mascara was artfully smudged. Margaret was looking out the window, looking frail. The caption read, "Sometimes you travel 1,000 miles to fix a heart, only to find the door locked. It's painful when family chooses money over love. We are safe for tonight in a motel. We will survive, we always do. But it hurts to know that success changes people so much that they forget where they came from. Pray for my sister. Her house is big, but her soul must be very empty. Number family trauma, number heartbroken, number pray for Lena." I felt the heat rise in my cheeks. "Let me guess," Noah said, watching my face. "They're the victims." "I'm the villain," I said. "I'm the rich, heartless sister who turned her homeless family away into the snow, even though it's 50 degrees outside." I scrolled through the comments. "OMG Ava, that's terrible. I can't believe she did that. Money is the root of all evil, karma will get her. So brave of you to share this. Stay strong, Mama Hart." My thumb hovered over the reply button. The urge to fight back was overwhelming. I wanted to type. I offered them a list of shelters. They demanded to live in my house. Ava stole my car. I wanted to post the spreadsheet. I wanted to post the police reports from years ago. I wanted to scream the truth until everyone heard it. But then I remembered the folder in the drawer. I remembered the feeling of wiping their fingerprints off my counter. If I responded, I was playing their game. If I commented, I was just another character in their drama. I would be giving them exactly what they wanted, a public fight. I put the phone down. "Are you going to respond?" Noah asked. "No," I said. "Good," Noah said. He took a bite of pizza. "Don't feed the trolls, even if they're related to you." I didn't respond publicly. Instead, I opened my laptop. I drafted an email. I addressed it to Ava and Margaret. I also CC'd my Aunt Linda, who was the biggest gossip in the family. The subject line was, "Communication policy regarding Lena Hart." I wrote, "Margaret and Ava, I saw the post. You are free to tell whatever story you want online. I will not engage with it. However, my boundary stands. You are not welcome in my home. You are not welcome at my business. If you attempt to contact me again via social media, phone, or in person, I will involve legal counsel immediately. I have provided you with resources for housing and employment. That is the extent of my assistance. Do not reply to this email. Consider this the final word. Lena." I hit send. My hand shook slightly, but not from fear. It shook from the finality of it. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Aunt Linda. I didn't answer. Then a text from Ava. "You're pathetic, emailing like a coward." I didn't reply. I blocked the number again. Then a text from Margaret. "How can you be so cold? I'm old, Lena. I'm tired." I didn't reply. Blocked. I looked at Noah. "I think I just fired my family." Noah clinked his beer bottle against mine. "Congratulations on the promotion." The backlash continued for a few days. People whispered. I got a few nasty messages from distant relatives calling me stuck up, but I didn't read them. I deleted them unread. And slowly, something amazing happened. Because I didn't fight back, the fire ran out of oxygen. Ava's post got old. People scrolled past it. The drama faded because there was no second act. My silence wasn't weakness. It was a wall, and they were tired of banging their heads against it. Weeks turned into months. The first month was strange. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I kept checking my cameras, expecting to see them on the porch again. I kept expecting a lawsuit, or a police officer, or a brick through the window, but nothing came. The silence shifted. It went from being a tense, loaded silence to a peaceful, empty one. The flying monkeys, the relatives who did my mother's bidding, stopped flying. Aunt Linda stopped calling when she realized I wouldn't pick up. My cousins stopped tagging me in guilt trip memes because I never liked or commented on them. I realized that my family operated on a specific currency, reaction. They needed tears, yelling, or arguments to feel connected. By refusing to pay that currency, I became boring to them. I was no longer a fun target. My life began to expand. I focused on the bakery. We launched a new line of cinnamon rolls that became a local hit. I hired 2 new staff members. I treated them with respect. I paid them well. I created the kind of environment I had always wanted, fair, logical, and kind. I spent more time with Noah. We weren't dating exactly, but we were something. We were safe together. We planted a garden in my backyard. One Saturday afternoon, about 6 months after the porch incident, as I called it, I was weeding the tomato plants. The sun was warm on my back. My phone pinged with an email. It was from Margaret. My heart gave a little jump, a reflex from years of conditioning. I wiped the dirt off my hands and opened it. The subject line was just news. The email read, "Lena, I thought you should know. Ava is staying with a friend in Arizona now. I moved into a senior living apartment in the city. It's small, but it's okay. You've broken your sister's heart, you know. She still cries about you. I hope you're happy in your big house. Mom." I read it twice. 6 months ago, that email would have ruined my week. The guilt trip "you broke her heart" would have sent me spiraling. I would have felt the need to apologize, to fix it, to send money. But standing in my garden, with the smell of tomato vines and soil in the air, I felt nothing. I analyzed the text like a business contract. Fact 1. They had found housing. Good, they weren't homeless. Fact 2, they were separated. Healthy for both of them. Fact 3, she was still trying to manipulate me with guilt. Expected. I realized that Margaret's definition of breaking Ava's heart actually meant refusing to be Ava's bank account. I didn't reply. "Everything okay?" Noah asked from the other side of the garden bed. "Yeah," I said, putting the phone back in my pocket. "Just spam." I went back to weeding. I realized then that protecting myself wasn't cruelty, it was equality. For 30 years, I had set myself on fire to keep them warm. Now I was just keeping my own fire for myself. The guilt was gone. It had been replaced by a quiet, steady pride. I had held the line, and because I held the line, I was safe. A year passed. The seasons changed. My garden grew, died in the winter, and bloomed again in the spring. One Tuesday morning, I was at the bakery going over the inventory. The bell above the door chimed. I looked up, expecting a customer. It wasn't a customer. But it wasn't an invasion either. It was an email notification on the bakery's iPad. Subject, job inquiry. Sender, Ava Hart. I stared at the screen. I opened it cautiously. "Lena, I know you said not to contact you unless it was written, so I'm writing. I'm back in Denver. The Arizona thing didn't work out. I'm staying at a hostel. I need a job. I know you own the bakery. I was wondering if you're hiring. I can work the register. I'm good with people. I promise I won't cause drama. I just need a paycheck. Ava." I read it. I read the tone. It was different. The arrogance was gone. The entitlement was dialed down to a whisper. It was the email of someone who had hit the concrete floor I told her about. Part of me, the petty part, wanted to laugh. Now she wanted a job, after calling me a thief, after mocking my work for years. Another part of me, the old, enabling part, wanted to say yes, to save her, to be the big sister, but I was neither of those people anymore. I was a business owner. Hiring Ava would be a disaster. She would be late. She would demand special treatment. She would make the other employees uncomfortable. It would poison the sanctuary I had built. But I also didn't want to be cruel. I typed a reply. "Ava, we are not hiring at the Midnight Bakery. My policy prohibits hiring family members. However, I know that the breakfast spot on 4th Street and Pete's Diner downtown are looking for servers. They are hiring immediately. Good luck. Lena." I hit send. I didn't offer money. I didn't offer a room. I didn't offer an interview. I offered information. I pointed her toward the ladder, but I didn't carry her up it. 2 weeks later, I received no reply. But a month after that, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a photo. It was a selfie. It was Ava. She was wearing a beige polo shirt with a logo that said Pete's Diner. She had an apron on. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun, not a style, just practical. She looked tired. She had dark circles under her eyes. She wasn't wearing the expensive makeup, but she was smiling. It was a small, real smile. The caption said, "First paycheck, my feet hurt." I looked at the photo for a long time. She was working. She was standing on her own 2 feet. Because I had closed the door, she had been forced to walk through a different one. By refusing to enable her, I had actually helped her. I didn't reply to the text. I didn't want to open that door again. I just saved the photo to my phone. I put the phone down and went back to kneading dough. The rhythm was soothing. Push, fold, turn. Push, fold, turn. 3 years later, my mother came to the bakery. It was a busy Saturday. I was behind the counter, boxing up a dozen cupcakes. I looked up and saw her standing in line. She looked older. Her hair was gray now, not dyed blonde. She was using a cane. She got to the front of the line. The customers behind her were waiting. "Hi, Lena," she said. "Hi, Mom," I said. The air didn't crackle. The sky didn't fall. It was just 2 women standing on opposite sides of a glass case filled with pastries. "I heard you won an award," she said. Best bakery in the city. I did, I said. She looked around the shop. She looked at the customers, the clean floors, the happy staff. She looked at me calm, professional, strong. She nodded slowly. It's beautiful here, she said. Her voice was quiet. There was no sarcasm, no manipulation, just an observation. Thank you, I said. She hesitated. I thought she might ask for money. I thought she might ask to come over for dinner. I'll take a chocolate croissant, she said. I put the croissant in a bag. That's $4, I said. She opened her purse. She took out $4. She handed them to me. I took the money, I rang it up, I handed her the receipt. Have a good day, I said. You too, she said. She turned and walked out the door. I watched her go. I didn't chase her. I didn't feel a pang of longing. I felt a sense of completion. We had finally found a relationship that worked. We were strangers who respected each other's boundaries. I looked down at the $4 in the register. It wasn't just money. It was proof that I was a separate entity, proof that I commanded respect. I closed the register drawer. Click. Peace doesn't require forgiveness. It doesn't require a big, tearful reunion. It doesn't require a happy ending where everyone hugs. Peace just needs space to exist. It needs boundaries that hold firm. I had built my world. I had defended it. And now I was just living in it. I took a deep breath of the air that smelled of sugar and yeast. I was free. They turned the world against me, and I built a new one without them. It took me 13 years to realize that no is a complete sentence. It took me losing my family to find my self-respect. If you've ever rebuilt yourself after being erased, or if you're standing on the other side of a locked door right now, wondering if you're the bad guy, you're not. Hit subscribe, and tell me where you're listening from in the comments. Because silence when it's chosen isn't lonely, it's freedom.